Thank you, Ross. All right. Welcome. I know we got about half the people in the room, half the people online. To anyone who does not know, my name is Ethan Ash. I am the KW Commercial Regional Ambassador for New England. I have a team here, a commercial team, Coastal Land Commercial Group. And what other things am I? Former president and now Realtor of the Year for the commercial board. Today, we're going to have kind of go over kind of the intros into commercial, things that are for those who join KW Commercial, what they have access to, all that information. And then also we are lucky enough to have Nathania and Ross here from TD Bank. They are the sponsors. They provided lunch. So thank you very much for doing so. And they're going to first kind of talk about what I think is probably is equally important as anything I'm going to go over is the different type of commercial loan programs that are out there that are pretty important for if you're ever going to do commercial deals, like what different programs are going to make sense for your clients. What are they going to need to do? What's the step process, kind of timing, those type of things, what's going to qualify and not going to qualify. Same way you don't really want to waste your time helping people buy a house with they're not qualified to buy a house. The same way you don't really want to spend your time working on a commercial deal that just isn't going to pencil out and not going to be able to be financed. So Nathania, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Ethan, and thank you all for attending. Like Ethan said, we do have food in the back. We want to make sure you guys are fed and not hungry or hangry. So we're from TD Bank. I'm a senior relationship manager, and my colleague Ross Armstrong is a business banker. I'm hoping you guys know what TD Bank is, and we're just the bank downtown Portsmouth. But we're going to highlight some of our lending programs at TD, and more notably, it's the SBA loan program that we have. So TD Bank is actually considered a preferred lender with SBA, which just means that we can actually approve our loans in-house instead of sending it over to SBA for review and approval, which is really important because it can cut down weeks in terms of like the process. And I know when it comes to closing, that's really important for all parties involved. A little about TD Bank, we can actually lend anywhere from our footprint from Maine to Florida. And these are some of the services that we offer: commercial, corporate banking, commercial, we can do investment real estate, specialty industry banking. We do have healthcare practice finance solutions. So we can lend to doctors, dentists, veterinarians, optometrists, and we can lend up to 100%. So if they wanted to buy a building, we can actually finance their down payment as well on a 10-year, practice value. And then the mortgage on separately as well. So we can do like ground up building construction for the healthcare industry, acquisitions, buy-in, startup, essentially.
So I know we're here to talk about SBA, but that's like the healthcare practice space is like we're one of like the leaders in the US in that where we have very, very competitive rates, very competitive terms. That's
right.
If you ever come across like a dentist or vet, that's right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, there's not a lot of banks out there that would finance up to 100% of the financing for the healthcare industry, and we're one of those few banks. We also have private client services for our high net worth clients, personal banking, credit cards, and vehicle and dealer financing. So we have a TD Auto Finance. So because of these specialties, we have specialized underwriting groups that's work just with those loans, whether it's SBA, whether it's healthcare practice, or whether it's TD Auto Finance. So we're actually ranked #1 in our footprint and #2 nationally, which is pretty impressive since we're not in the West Coast or in the Midwest. So yeah, a lot of the advantages of SBA loans is the low equity injection requirement that you would see, like if you have a client that's looking to purchase a building for their business. Typically, you'd see in a conventional loan a requirement of 20% down, but with SBA, it's 10% equity contribution, and that's 25-year terms. Although I would say that for special use properties like movie theaters, then you'll see a 15% equity injection requirement. So we have SBA 7 loans up to $5 million. Although if there is some component of renewable energy, that can actually get bumped up to 5.5 million per project. 504 loans, maximums from 5 million to no limit, no balloon payments as well. So we've done real estate purchases, refinance, expansion, acquisition, partnership buyouts, equipment purchases, franchise financing, and construction, just some of the examples that we utilize our SBA loans for. These are some of the industries that we have lent to in terms of SBA, healthcare. We also have done non-medical professionals like CPAs, lawyers, attorneys, engineering firm, insurance companies, wholesale, manufacturing, franchise daycare, franchise restaurants, and business acquisitions. Limited or independent restaurants, it's more like a case-by-case situation, so it really just depends. Hotels, car washes, I've actually done a number of that last year, so not sure why it's under limited. I think I did like 3 or 4 last year. Home healthcare, golf courses, marinas, and recreational specialty use facilities. And these are some of the top 5 industry concentrations as well too: restaurants, medical, dental, veterinarian, daycare, non-medical professionals, and hotels. Yeah.
What about building development?
Is it like speculative in terms of like someone wants to build like housing or?
House complex.
So I think a good place to start with when talking about the SBA. So SBA is geared towards
Small business.
not necessarily. There's limitations in terms of revenue, but I want to say it's like 500 million. It's something. It's pretty. The number is pretty high, but it's think more owner occupied. So
Okay.
it's if you have a client, let's say you come across a construction firm that wants to buy a industrial facility to store their materials and things like that. That's more of SBA. And there's you can lease up to 49% of your facility. So you can still lease out a portion of it, but the SBA recipient has to occupy at least 51% of the property. And that
But outside of your SBA, like TD does do.
Yeah, that was more my question. Thank you.
So it's considered speculative, but we would, I don't know whose phone is this. Somebody's phone.
I was wondering if that was more of a targeted or a limited.
Yeah, we would consider it, but there are some requirements that they have to meet. So like, for instance, like if they have an unencumbered property, we could use that and leverage that. But if not, then we would want to see pre-leases signed, which is, I know it's typically challenging to get
So
that.
more like the industry application, more limited.
Limited, right,
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
But for SBA specifically, we wouldn't be able to use that for like a development project per se, like that.
Even if it was maybe going to be like out apartment complex.
So no apartments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the only circumstance where apartment might come into play is if you think of a mixed use building.
Yep.
So retail on the first floor,
Yeah.
2 apartments on the second floor, as long as those apartments are less than 49.
49%.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
and
That's good to know.
the 49%, or the 51% you can get creative. So think of like a
Common areas or
common areas.
parking or storage.
Yeah, like think of like a
Mixed use.
yeah. So think of like a landscaping company who is going to keep a ton of stuff outside. That we can actually count that towards the 51% to some degree. It's a case by case basis. But
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
And I'll kind of just step in, like, it's something kind of different, commercial versus residential. Like residential, you kind of have your loan officer, and they kind of do pretty much every single product that's going to work for your client. Commercial lenders are very much, focused in certain businesses, certain areas, certain industries. As you can see, like there's certain states that TD doesn't go into, and there's certain product types that they're not going to be touching, because unlike on your loan officer who takes the loan and then sells it to somebody else, they're holding this book of business. So it's something that they have to like trust. They're not selling your business, they're keeping your business, they're building a relationship with you. So we'll see that TD's the leader in it, like working with these small businesses, because I need to buy the real estate, then I need to buy my equipment, then I need to potentially get capital to do other projects, and those are continuing to get debt. You have to have a really good relationship, someone who understands those businesses, understands your capital and your leverage and your cash flow. you want to have someone who knows that stuff and can then solve those problems as they come along, because you don't want to be moving you don't want to be moving your
Yeah.
accounts every single time you're planning on doing something new.
Right.
Thank you, Eden. I promise we didn't pay him to say that. I think, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, just kind of piggyback on what Ethan said, we do portfolio our loans, and that's why we're pretty competitive with pricing. We don't sell our loans once we book it on the secondary market, so we offer fixed rate financing for that. Typically with other lenders, you'll see variable, so they'll price on prime plus 2 3/4. That just means that they're not going to portfolio that loan, and for us, we're able to be more flexible with, being more competitive with the rate or the pricing. Let's see, let's go to the next page. So one of our programs is, which I believe you have the one-page printouts. It's the 504 program, and the way that it's structured is essentially the bank will finance 50%, the CDC 40%, and the 10% injection comes from the client. So you'll essentially have 2 loans. There's no limitation to the bank's portion. I know with the 7A, there's that $5 million, but with this one, there's no limitation because essentially you have 2 loans. With the CDC, there is a limitation in that part, but typically what you'll see with the 504 loan program in terms of like what you can use it for is for real estate construction. Like if a business owner wants to build their own, I don't know, industrial property, we can use a 504 loan for the construction aspect of that. Equipment purchases too. So I'm doing one right now for car wash. Did I admit this person?
Yes.
Okay. I heard a noise, but I think someone was talking.
Someone was talking.
Was there a question online?
Problems. It says no one's talking, so it says we're talking.
Okay,
we're good.
we'll just keep going. But yeah, so like right now I'm doing a car wash loan and we're actually using a 7A for that one instead of a 504, but you can use either or. It really just depends on the client and what the rates are, because they're going to have different rates. 7A will have a different rate from 504. So you can use 504 for equipment purchase and also refinancing if they have a property right now that they want to refinance the rate into a 504.
We see a lot of construction with 504s. That's, I think, a big one that that we see.
And in the 7A loan program, which is actually more popular with us, is there's no balloon payment, there's lower equity injection, like I said, 10%, sometimes 15%, depending on the type of property. And well, it says there's no guarantee fee through 9/2025. So I got to double check on that, but we're pretty much.
There is a guarantee fee.
It's a guarantee fee now.
So the new administration brought the guarantee fee back, I think, in May.
Yep. So the S7A program can also be used for real estate purchase, equipment purchase, business acquisition, expansion, partner buyouts, franchise financing, debt refinance, working capital lines. So there's a lot of, it's very expansive in terms of like what you can use the 7A. It's more inclusive than the 504. This one, there's 90% advance rate on real estate and business acquisition and 100% on equipment and machinery. And typically what we like to do is we like to have a conversation with the client in terms of, what their goals are in terms of like whether or not a 7A or a 504 is more suitable for them. And the reason why is because with the 504, there's a 10-year prepayment penalty. And with the 7A, it's 3 years. Do you want to speak more on the prepayment penalty in terms of the 7A versus the 504? It's just a multi-step, right? Or it's 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Yep, on the 7A. And we typically like to give them all options. So if a client says, well, I'm probably going to stay in this property for 4 years or 5 years, and then I'm going to retire and sell the business, then we'll probably steer them on 7A. Because if we structure it in a 504, then they'll be on the hook for the remaining 5 or 6 years that they decide to terminate their loan.
And I think the thing that, again, real estate agents see, but we kind of fair where these programs are typically 10% down versus conventional 25% down. And there's going to be a lot of deals that when you are talking to your clients and you just go like, all right, well, if you're looking at $1 million, do you have $250,000 cash? And they go, no, I don't have that, easily liquid. All right, then we're gonna see if you can qualify for the, these other programs that you only need to have $100,000 cash, in your account to be able to do the deal. So you're gonna, by knowing about these programs and understanding the rules that what qualifies and do not qualify, you're gonna open up opportunities that other people don't, because they're just gonna immediately go, we can't find anything for you to buy that fits your cash position right now. And some people aren't doing deals because they don't think they can afford it, but these are some of the programs. And then again, they talked about some of these 0%. Just when I first started, and again, maybe TD always had these programs. I never knew a single commercial loan that was a 0% down. Like there was that just did not exist. But again, it's very specific field, but that those things exist in certain fields is just things that if you know about, you're going to open up doors that would otherwise be closed to potential buyers.
And then I guess like just looking at the comparison between 7A, 504 and conventional in terms of terms, we can go up to 25 years on 7A and 504. Typically for conventional, we can go max 5 to 10 year term. Amortization, like if someone is buying like a property for their business, maximum you'll see on conventional loans is 20 years with a 20% down payment. But if you do a 7A or 504, you could typically stretch that to 25 years. But if there's a component of business acquisition and real estate, usually business acquisition, if they were to just go to TD Bank and say, I want to buy a business, no real estate or with some real estate included, TD will structure that in a conventionally, like a 5-year for the business acquisition. But if you do SBA 7A or 504, we could stretch out the term and the amortization and do a blended. So instead of 5 years for the acquisition and then separate loan for the real estate, we can do a blended into like, it really depends. We kind of take a weighted average, but for instance, like 14 years.
I think another important thing to bring up with the SBA is some SBA can be utilized in circumstances of a collateral shortfall, like that, this comes more into play with business acquisitions. When you acquire a business, typically there's not a lot of collateral. So we can utilize SBA on circumstances where there might be a collateral shortfall.
Yeah, because usually business acquisitions a lot of them are goodwill. So it's not like hard collateral, but SBA, we have the ability to have that airball. So these are just some of the loans that we've done. An example is, daycare facility in Londonderry. There's a group of investors that have few daycares in their portfolio. Ethan's familiar with this one. Yep. So they wanted to buy this daycare facility in Londonderry that's been operating for a long time, and the owners were looking to sell and just retire. So what we were able to do, this is actually really hard to read. We actually funded this with a 10-year fixed and 25-year adjusted amortization. And the prepayment penalty on this was 531, 7A. This is a 7A loan. So the borrower liquidity and net worth were pretty light, but we like the fact that, they had 2 years of experience, and the acquisition target, the daycare was around for a long time, I think 30 plus years. So we took a first mortgage on the real estate, and then there was a $500,000 collateral shortfall, but we just put a lien on all the ARs and inventory. And also, if there's a shortfall in collateral, SBA requirement is they'll attempt to make themselves full, whether that's taking a mortgage on their other investment real estate or on their residential property. So that's an SBA rule. That's not just a TD rule.
And again, to kind of talk about the difference in why it's so important to be doing this the right way is, putting value to a daycare. Yeah, there is no like equipment. I mean, there technically is equipment list, but it's toys and paper and scissors. Yeah. It's nothing that, has large equipment. But the difference is it was a converted church that was this daycare business. If you ever see churches, they sell for almost nothing because they have very little purpose outside of, stuff like this. So if you can't sell the business along with the real estate, you're costing your client it would cost them well over $1 million if we just sold the real estate without the business. So understanding how to do debt service ratios, and then also understanding how to get the deal done, having the right lender, those are just so important. And if you know what you're doing, you do it the incorrect way, or if someone comes in and doesn't know how to deal with a shortfall, like, and the deal falls apart, like, yeah, you can run yourself into doing a whole lot of work, getting paid nothing, and costing the clients. So, understanding these programs, I think you're going to do this, understanding, you don't need to be a genius at it, but if you understand it at an initial level, and then bring in experts when you need them. So.
And this is actually where I learned that daycare makes a lot of money. So I need to find a daycare to buy. Another one that we've done, it's a 1.4 million 7A loan for a generational stock purchase of a manufacturing facility in Seabrook. So the loan was used for stock buyback, a buyout of the father to the son of a multi-generational manufacturing company. We did a 10-year term amortization and fixed rate with no equity injection in this one. So I think the deal was strong enough for us to be able to do that. Yep. So the son was obviously younger with limited liquidity and personal balance sheet, but the business cash flow was pretty strong, so we were able to structure it in a 7A loan. Another one is a car wash. We did a 2.6 million 7A business acquisition loan for a car wash in Keene, New Hampshire. And it's a husband and wife. It's their first time buying a car wash, their first car wash. This was structured in a 25-year term amortization and fixed rate with very limited equity injection. They came in at 10%. And we structured it on a 25-year term and amortization. So, you know, the borrowers at the time, their liquidity and net worth were also pretty tight. So you don't always have to have like a lot of money as a borrower and a lot of net worth, but you know, it really just depends on your experience, the borrower's experience that's buying the business, and also just the strength of the deal that they're purchasing as well. So if you know you have someone that has no experience in buying like a restaurant, and this is they've never worked in the restaurant industry, they just want to say, they just came to you and said, I want to buy a restaurant because I think it's cool. It's going to be very hard for us to get done unless it's a really good restaurant that's franchised. But we typically like to see some strengths of the deal, like, you know, borrower liquidity, net worth, experience. We don't have to have all of it, but we like to have some of it.
So in this example, the husband wasn't a car wash guy. He was a pharmacist. They had a low 10% income and unsecured collateral. The deal was partially unsecured, but available collateral. That kind of goes against what you're just saying. In this case, they didn't have any experience. What was the reason you were able to qualify this loan? What was the helpful part?
So there's certain within commercial banking, there's always like a circumstantial aspect to it. So a car wash doesn't, it's, there's an operating company, but it's not as extensive as something like a daycare or something that truly is an operating company. So on certain circumstances, we can make it make sense based on, the individual buying it, what's being sold, and kind of what industry type it is.
Yeah, in this case, the husband is actually keeping his day job. He's not quitting his pharmacist job. So for us, that's supplemental income. And in terms of SBA, we always do a global cash flow. So we like the fact that there's outside income that he's bringing in. So in case the car wash, doesn't do well, we know that there's going to be more sources of repayment. But I believe this car wash was also on a subscription basis. So it's kind of like guaranteed revenue, kind of like when you go to the gym, you're getting, even if they don't get their car washed, they're still getting the income from the subscriptions. But we did take a lot of collateral on this, on the business assets, on the life insurance policy, and also the second lien on their personal residence too.
Okay, thank you.
We also do SBA franchise lending as well too. So TD already has a separate vertical that does franchise lending for like McDonald's, Burger King, but SBA has a separate vertical for this as well. I'm actually doing a franchise deal right now for I'm having a mental block, those car places where they change your oil and stuff. Yeah, I'm doing one for, they're doing a ground up construction, and they actually ended up getting hard money loan to do the construction, and we're gonna refinance it once the construction is done, so. And then these are just the other products that we offer aside from the 7A and 504. So working capital lines of credit. So if there's a business owner that just wants to have like a revolving line of credit to just help with the cash flow, we can do that. We have export working capital program as well, SBA Express and USDA loans. And you can see here the maximum loan amounts. I think $10 million for USDA is the biggest one out of all of these ones, but SBA Express, it's 500,000, working capital program, 5 million, and cap lines up to 5 million. But there's just some qualifications. I think you'll see consistently in a lot of these programs, you'll need to be at least a US citizen or LPR for profit businesses, and they have to meet the SBA size standards. We have some pre-qualifications that we go through with SBA. So they fill out this form and some of those questionnaire, depending on their answer, may disqualify them from the SBA program. Like if they had a loan before with SBA that they foreclosed on, then SBA requires you SBA requires that you pay them in full before you borrow from them again, essentially. Which makes sense. The government always wants their money back. But yeah, so that's pretty much our SBA program. Typically what we like to see in terms of like the checklist, what we'll require from your clients are 3 years business tax returns, of whether their business, and if they're acquiring another business, we need the tax returns of the other business too. Interim financial statements, a debt schedule, personal financial statement. And again, this forms we could provide to you guys, the debt schedule and the personal financial statement. And if they are buying another business, then we want to see a business projection and a business plan. So the projection, we like to see 2 years, the first year broken down by monthly, and then the second year can just be a full year.
And also a purchase, either a purchase and
Oh,
sale
okay,
agreement
purchase and sale.
or letter of intent, just so we can see the structure of what the deal looks like.
One question. So for the equity injection, with an SBA, do they care where that money's coming from? Like, let's say you got it from a private lender, that 10% or whatever. Is that gonna be a problem, or do they really care where the money's coming from as long as it's there?
We need to understand where it's coming from, whether it's like a gift from like, I don't know, like their friends or family. You're also able to do some seller financing, but again, SBA still requires that 10% coming from the owners directly, from the buyers directly. But we can get creative in terms of like seller financing or seller holdback. We just have to, the SBA SOP is constantly changing, but the good thing with TD is we actually have like our own SBA BDO. That's all she does is SBA loans. So she can help navigate their clients in terms of like those nuances in the SBA SOP. So she can get creative in terms of like helping your clients structure the deal, whether it's like, you don't have enough equity and, you can get a gift or from your friends or family, and maybe we can finance some with the seller financing if the seller is amenable to it. But our SBA BDO, she used to actually be an underwriter with SBA with 20 plus years of experience, so.
And kind of answer also to that question is like, so again, SBA and certainly some of these programs, like they really care where the cash comes from. There's more conventional ones, they go that seller financing can potentially work more in those cases, but you will come to this debt credit ratio. They can go like, so if you're trying to finance the thing 100%, it's not a house. So if there isn't enough cash flow in the game, if too much money is paying interest to the bank and too much is paying interest to your seller financing, and you're not making enough margins, they're going to just reject the deal because they're going to say, you're not going to make enough money to stick around. So we don't think you're likely to continue to repay this if there's anything that goes wrong. So, but if they, again, it is a deal by deal basis. And one of the things that is really important to understand the difference between residential and commercial is commercial, they have to like the deal. They have to like the location. They have to like the property. They have to like you as the person operating the location versus that. If you're buying a house, it's more of like, what can you afford? What's your income? Okay, like this based off our numbers, based on our credit score and all that stuff. This is what you can afford to buy, and you put property in. But like, you're never going to get Good. So anyone who asked me for pre-approval for a commercial deal, I go, you don't get this. Like
Mhm.
this is totally different because
Yeah.
no bank is gonna like buy whatever property you want for $2 million. Just go find one, tell us when you find one, and we'll do the loan. Like they're just never gonna happen. They're gonna
Yeah.
say, we will loan you up to $2 million if we like all the aspects of
Mhm.
the deal.
Yep. And it's usually a term sheet. So to get to a term sheet for us will require like the full financial package. And the difference with our term sheet is it's pretty much underwritten and blessed by our credit approvers and risk officers. It's not like an expression of interest or LOI. So you know that you're like 90% approved already. So as long as everything else checks off, like the appraisals and there's no environmental issues, then you have a pretty good chance of closing.
I just want to, so, you know, colloquially, I can't say it, so I'm not going to try to say it again. We call it skin in the game. So like for the down payment, like we want to see them put money in because we want to see them actually invested into, and the SBA wants to see that as well. So that's where, you know, we'd want to see them put up some of their own money into the deal.
And just to kind of go back on your question, Sue, so if you're borrowing money for the equity injection, just make sure that, you know that that's actually going to count towards the cash flow too, because we're going to take that debt. It's global with SBA. So we take all the personal debts, all the business debts, and make sure that the deal still cash flows. If it's just like a real estate, conventional, not SBA, we do, in my world at least, so I do anything over $1 million lending, we cash flow just based on the property itself. So we don't care. I mean, we do care, but we don't really take into too much consideration how much they're making personally. It's a little different. Sorry.
Kind of like a DSCR.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little different in Ross's world. So he does under $1 million in lending, but they do global as well too. So sometimes it's good because if there's not enough cash flow in the property, like if there's some kind of value adds that there, opportunities there, but then the person who's buying it, the sponsor, has some significant personal income, then it certainly helps the case. But sometimes it doesn't help either if they have too much debt.
So, yeah, thank you. We went over a tremendous amount of information and I appreciate all that. I'll start getting into my stuff. Ross and any of their contact information is here. So again, if you're going to start doing commercial deals, you want to know, hey, what's this thing going to be worth? How are we going to potentially help this person buy it? Like, again, it should be the same way in if you're doing residential deals, like you should be talking to your lender very early on in the process, the same way you should be doing this in the commercial world. So I would say more so.
One thing I do want to add, which I think will, kind of like a carrot for you guys, but we are actually paying now up to a percentage of referral fee for deals that are closed. So, if Ethan sends me a referral to finance a business acquisition and real estate, and the deal closes, then we'll pay a percentage to Ethan or the brokerage firm. Just a little incentive.
The incentive we're
Yeah.
fighting for everyone on our side.
Exactly.
Again, if you're getting a referral for a point, again, especially when you're working with buyers now, we know the world for buyer agents has kind of changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. Getting insured, you're going to get paid. Something's going to be a good thing. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to leave these with you. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to call us, email us. I have to head to a closing, but he's going to stick around for Q&A. So I'll give this back to you. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you thank you for providing lunch. We very much appreciate that. And good luck with your closing. Can you believe it? A deal falling apart right there at the deadline. I don't think anyone in this room has ever had to deal with that, right? Well, I appreciate you. So I guess, so again, introduce myself. I am the regional ambassador for KW Commercial. Just a question for the room, just so it kind of helps me understand, who here has done a commercial deal at one point or another? Either. So you've done it as a buyer, not as an agent? Okay.
Limited multi-units.
Okay, so it got above that 4 unit or, okay. So you've done
But
one of
just
those.
a couple of multi-units.
Yep.
before.
No, absolutely. Who here is currently on one of the commercial boards here in Maine, New Hampshire, or Mass is a primary or secondary board? Okay, and anyone here on any of the commercial property exchanges, NECPE, CoStar, LoopNet, Crexi, seeing no one was raising their hand doing commercial deals. My thought was no one's going to be paying that high subscription either. Okay, so sounds like most people here haven't done a whole lot of commercial. So we'll kind of keep things to the basics. Again, for my presentation, please ask questions. Those that who are online, please interrupt me at any point, anything that you want to go over. But pretty much what I'm going to really kind of explain is for those who haven't, yes, Russ?
You want me to stick around?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can.
No, I can. I just want to make.
There's no state secrets that are going to be going on here. So pretty much if you were to want to do commercial, having access to education, access to resources forms, I think is the best path. Just so everyone knows, because I always kind of want to make sure people are aware in this office, our rules and regs for doing commercial deals is if you want to do a commercial deal, you need to be part of the commercial board. New Hampshire has, in the state that you're doing the commercial deal. So if you're doing it in New Hampshire, there's a New Hampshire Commercial Industrial Board of Realtors. You'd have to be a member of that. If you're doing it in Maine, it's MCAR. Massachusetts, it's Massachusetts Greater Commercial Alliance. So there's just boards that you would just need to be a part of, so you have the proper forms. What I find is that is not really going to help you get deals. It's not going to help you really get the education you need to really do this at a high level, and it will fall short of what you really need. But KW Commercial has a tremendous amount of education. I don't think anyone would be surprised to hear that KW, an education-based company, has created tremendous amount of resources. Is anyone here part of any of the other specialty groups within KW, KWYP, luxury, military? Nope. Land? Nope. Okay. So those, I'm trying to think if there's any other specialty groups that I'm missing right now. But for anyone who's part of the specialty group, this would be the back end. So I'm a member of YP, and which is the Young Professionals Group. I get to be part of that for 5 more years before I get aged out of that program. And but you don't get aged out of commercial, so don't worry about that. Actually, the average age of a commercial broker is, I believe, 67 now. So there is a real opportunity to things are changing in the market, how commercial deals are done, and there's not a lot of young blood. So if it's something that you're looking to do, again, really good opportunities. So, but pretty much this one site has all the KW commercial resources that are available to our members. Pretty much the getting started, what you'll see is a 30, 60, 90. Again, very much a Keller Williams thing that most of us have seen, how to kind of get involved into learning the process and what you should be doing. We have our best practices, which has ancillary documents. So when we talk about, and we'll see if things will let me download properly, but when we talk about documents here, it's I'm gonna have, you're gonna just have to take my word on it, but there has, like, it's a lot of education documents, forms that you'd want to see, terminology, definitions. So if you're going to be doing commercial, you have all these documents. You also have what is on our KW Commercial Learning. So there are over 203 lessons, from the initial things of learning how to do commercial, learning site to do business, which uses like demographic data to figure out, like, trends, who the potential customers or workers are for a given area. How RPR, which has gotten, it's night and day, how RPR, which, for the record, everyone here views RPR at some point. Yes, you all have access to that as Realtor members. RPR has gone a lot better in terms of having information and data in terms of commercial, which was extremely lacking before. But if you never knew there was a toggle at the front, the top of your search from residential to commercial, you probably never were able to find a single commercial property because it doesn't, you can't find it unless you put the commercial toggle on. So they go through a lot more training than just learning the toggle for searching on RPR, but there's a lot of different reports that you can pull out of the program. And then there are all these different specialty groups. So can anyone name a type of commercial property? Like I'll start. You have office buildings. What's another type of
Industrial,
industrial? Okay. What else?
mixed use,
Mixed use,
residential multifamily,
like apartment buildings, 5 units plus. Yes, great. What else?
gas station.
Gas station. Yep. Which is we would call it in a subset of the retail, but so retail is another one. Anyone else got any of the other? Warehouse, flex space. So that's another thing. Self-storage, that's another type of kind of in that flex industrial world. You got government properties, those government buildings, school buildings, universities. Those are, municipal, like, your Portsmouth Health Club, like those are other commercial properties. You got triple net lease properties, the Dunkin' Donuts that's right next door to us. That's a triple net lease tenant that, builds the building and you lease out the land. It's an investment. You got developments. You can do subdivisions or building industrial or retail or big office buildings, big apartment buildings. There's a whole lot of, and all of that stuff, there is buying and selling it, and there's also leasing that material. Like all those things you need to potentially have to lease as well. So each one of these specialty groups, oh, and I forgot because we just talked about it, business sales. That's another type of commercial property. So when we're talking about, well, how do you kind of get going? We actually have each of those groups that I just mentioned. There is a specialty group that meets on a monthly basis for KW commercial members. So if you want to learn about developments, if you want to learn about office, if you want to look at industrial, if you want to do net leasing, multifamily, retail, so government services, hospitalities. I didn't even mention hospitalities, hotels, bed and breakfasts, those restaurants, those all kind of fall under the hospitality realm. So those meet on a monthly basis. And again, I think the one thing that you'll recognize is that if you don't have the knowledge, know the questions to ask, like you're gonna have a tough time winning that type of business. But this is all going on a monthly basis, and the joke about being part of KW is you could spend your entire time in front of your computer learning things, coming to classes, learning things, never ever talking to people, and then you would probably not keep your business for very long. But if you're going to do commercial, it is really important that you're speaking knowledgeably about that in that realm. I find that if you don't really know the right question to ask, it's going to be figured out pretty quickly. The other thing that is involved in being part of KW Commercial is if you have deals that you want to share, different classes, all that. We actually have a deal exchange. There's also RealNext, which is a software program that allows you to, it's pretty much a CRM similar to what we all use, Command, but it helps you do marketing. You can email to your database. You can also build financial brochures and different listing presentations. Those are things that are really important in order to win this type of business. So, and again, when we talk about education, there is the shift class. This is equivalent to if you've ever been part of Ignite, part of KW. This is like Ignite for commercial. So what are the steps you need to take in order to, build your commercial business? How do you prospect? How do you lead gen? how do you keep your business going? How do you do negotiations? And when we talk about the other aspects here, the other thing that I think is really valuable that you just really can't put, I- uh, you can't really put there's no really supplement is the ancillary document, the leases, the letter of intents, the request for proposal purchase agreements. All these sample forms are here for commercial deals. So the same way there are state forms that you can use, but you will find out that there's so many, anyone who's doing residential and doing residential at a high level knows that you have a million different additional provisions that you need to be aware of, that you need to be adding to the contract because every property is different. If you don't add those additional provisions because you may not be protecting your client when you're doing a purchase and sale. So understanding, looking at samples, looking at what other people have done, looking at what other states, attorneys have used, like that gives you a whole big leg up in understanding how to properly protect your clients when you're doing something. There's also a lot of different financial spreadsheets. So if you want to do analysis of does this multifamily apartment complex make sense at that price? Like how do you know how to price things right? How do you know what to do? So all these things are available for KW commercial members. You don't have to join KW commercial to do commercial deals, but I would say you want to do it at a high level and you want to take the streamlined version of getting all this education. This is how you would do it in I think a high level way. And I will say the one thing that I try and let people know is that of the specialty groups, they account for less than 5% of the KW agents, but they do 25% of the total GCI within the company. Specializing in something helps you fast track your deal. And I would say in our office, I think we have like 14 right now, KW commercial members. I think 10 of them are capping agents. About half of those are double, triple capping agents. Some are the quadruple bronze, like that's the highest level. And that's in our office. So they get their unfair share. And people who focus in something, and if commercial may be the thing for you, like this is how to, this would be my recommendation if you want to be doing this at a high level. KW Commercial has all the resources, technology, education, and connections to help you get there. I'm here to answer any questions you have about anything regarding commercial. So
Now, if you do go into commercial, do you suggest like generalizing commercial or like picking a niche, like specializing within a certain aspect of commercial?
So that's a great question. The answer I have is, especially it depends on what you want to do and where you want to do it. Meaning there isn't enough commercial of any given one category that if you just specialize in developments that you're going to have consistent cash flow that's going to be coming in and getting you paid. So it's probably difficult to just focus in one specific category. I will also say it is extremely difficult to become an expert on 10 different things at the same time. So for those just starting off, I always say I would start with investments, because the same way if someone's looking at a 2-unit, they could look at a 5-unit. Like there's very little that same buyer could potentially do both those deals. So you already have that buyer who's looking at a 2-unit. But if they want a 5-unit, again, there's no owner occupied, like it changes the scale of what you're doing. But it's instead of looking at 2 rents, you're looking at 5 rents. And instead of thinking, hey, I could potentially do it with a 3% down, FHA loan, like, well, I'm probably going to be doing something in the 15% down, and I just need to make sure that the property cash flows. So if you start with looking at real estate as an investment, then it's pretty easy to say, all right, let's look at a mixed use building instead of it all being apartments. Now I got some office buildings and some office space and some retail space. And if I know what those lease at, I can run my pro forma and figure out what that property is worth. And if you're helping people buy those things, then you can be helping get those listings because you have buyers for that. And maybe your buyer doesn't want that opportunity because they think, they don't like that market, but you still think you could get that price. You can talk to that owner and say, would you be interested in selling at that number? Because if you understand the numbers, how the financial works, like that's kind of a great place to start. But at the end of the day, it's whatever you're going to be passionate about and do the work on is where you're going to actually see the reward. I think a lot of people who initially step into commercial say, well, I saw Dave Garvey or Mark, or Ethan sell a $5 million property. I can make a lot more money just doing one $5 million property than doing 30, half of that, $500,000 properties. Like that may be how you look at it, but I just say that's not the way to look at it. It's what you're passionate about is where you're going to get your knowledge. When you get your knowledge, that's where you're going to find those opportunities and be able to add that value. So think if you do not care about office space, there's not enough money selling, buying, leasing office buildings that's going to make you willing to bang your head against the wall. If you really like helping businesses find new locations, like then you'll do those things and you'll spend your time instead of scrolling through Zillow, you're scrolling through the other commercial exchanges, finding those opportunities, figuring out if that deal makes sense. So it is really important to do what you're passionate about, what you think is worthwhile to do. But I say, if you just focus on self-storage, you better be licensed from Maine to Florida because you're going to need a pretty large territory to get enough of the market share to make it a good business, sustainable business for you. Which, for the record, there is a guy who out of Pennsylvania who just does mobile home parks, and he does it at a really high level. Like he does hundreds of millions of dollars in volume every single year, and he finds an agent in any given state to work with, because in commercial deals you can kind of step across state lines as long as you're doing things within the rights of commercial deals and you're not doing things outside of where you're supposed to be at guidelines per real estate law. But you can help a buyer buy a property in a state that you're not licensed in and get compensated in those things. You just have to follow the rules and regs. KW Commercial has a program called Launch, which gets you connected with a referral agent in that area and work through their license to do that deal. And that guy does hundreds of millions of dollars just buying mobile home parks across the country.
If I can make a recommendation, don't specialize in office space, most banks. So, I'm sure we're going out there,
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's tough to make it work on a speculative basis. It's like, hey, it's 40% occupied right now, but if it makes money at 90%, what's your plan to get that to being 90% if you're going to stay office? It's like, it's tough for anyone to really pencil out office space right now, especially just pure office buildings, other than medical office. Medical office is actually a different realm, but that's actually doing very well still, because dental offices and
Sometimes actually have to go.
yes, and there's still money there. And then if you're keeping in network, like if you understand the financials of the whole thing, you recognize that's not as nearly the risk as just pure office, office buildings.
The default rate on average for medical office is like less than 1%, where office is, right now it's significantly higher. I mean, I know places like New York City, it's like 50% dark,
Yeah. Right here, around here, I believe it's 18 or 19% dark right now. So it's tough to pencil things out if you're 20% vacant. Like it's just think about buying an apartment building where you're 20% vacant and trying to get it to pencil out. It's just not gonna work in a lot of cases. But we don't have that problem in apartment rentals. We do have that problem in office.
They try to do stuff with office spaces to include residential, like conversion to residential, but the shortage of.
Yes, and actually in the state of New Hampshire, there is a bill that is in the process where the state's going to make certain commercial zones have to allow conversions to residential in those zones. It hasn't passed, and there's going to be a lot of rules and regs. And there's also just going to be challenges of if this is a size of an apartment building, who wants to live in this one?
Well, not only
Well,
that,
there's no exterior wall, like you have no windows here. So not all space is going to be able to be converted, but there's a bill going on in New Hampshire trying to address that issue, but just not every property is going to fall under that, be able to be converted in such a way.
the cost of construction for that makes the investment really challenging because all the amount of plumbing and stuff that has to be added,
Yep.
because you're adding a bathroom. a place that might have one bathroom for a large square footage space, now you're adding, 20 bathrooms. To have to tear up floors and run plumbing and electrical and everything like that, it's
Yep.
almost nearly impossible.
Difficult. It's
Well,
not, I wouldn't, yeah, but I would say, like, again, I come from a development background. Mill conversions have a lot of those similar challenges, but if you look around, most of your mills have already been converted. Why? Because they were able to buy them for $1 because they were on the like the town took them over because they were a vacant mill. The person had to put in millions of dollars to, all these Chimberg mills that you see around here, like they spent tens of millions of dollars on just the windows to fix those things up. But those are all very valuable buildings right now because they get really strong rents and they're 100% occupied. So but I will say, like, and that's one of those things that, if I could say, and again, it's what I specialize in, so I'm not trying to like keep people from doing the thing that I do, but development takes the longest time. It is the biggest risk. There is good money to be made there, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for someone who needs to get a paycheck in a couple months from now. And you better understand your construction costs. You better understand land costs. You got to understand those components of things and usually some of the incentives that exist. But I will tell you, if you have a building that's 50% dark, it's not worth a whole lot, and it may be worth doing all those conversions to bring it to an apartment building that is at a cap rate that's 4 points lower than what an office building is trading at. So, all right. Other questions that people may have?
Ethan,
Yes.
hi. Thank you for bringing it up, and I appreciate I'm hopeful that everyone is appreciating the significance of Ethan's caution about the ability to do things in other states after you follow the laws and procedures that are in place. We have a large number of commercial issues floating around the commission in Concord, and it's not a free-for-all to just go roam around and do whatever you want. That's not how it works. And, the first $1 million fine from the commission a few years back was solely on commercial. It happens. So thank
Yeah.
you for bringing that up, and hopefully there can be some follow-up questions to that, as they come around, to understand you can't just, fly down to West Virginia and, list a mini mall this afternoon. You gotta know what you can and can't do. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I think, and again, we're seeing graying of areas, crossing lines of every given state, and, different licensing rules. Like, things are always kind of changing. Commercial's always been a little bit more of the Wild West. But I will say, like, you can still screw it up. You can still do it wrong, and the commission you make is not worth the fine you're going to get. As much as these are bigger deals, eventually you have diminishing return, and you're very rarely going to make $1 million on a single deal. It happens, but it's not very common. So try to avoid the $1 million fine. All right. Any other questions? I know we're a little bit over, and I appreciate everyone saying, if you got to run, totally understand. But any other questions that anyone wants to bring up right now?
Even I'm on this website right now. It says I don't have access to it.
Okay, because you're not in one of the specialty groups currently, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, so that's pretty much, you get your login and your password when you join. So KW Commercial for individual members is $199 a month. If you are joining a team, so someone else is the Rainmaker, it's the Rainmaker pays $199, everyone else pays $75. So if you're thinking of doing commercial, again, if you don't have experience, you're going to need a mentor. You can either choose someone in the local area to help you out. There's also a mentorship academy that you can do online. Dale Donovan down in Florida teaches that. It's a 3-month course, and it kind of helps you. You have requirements to meet with her on, I think, a weekly basis, going over things. She has classes you have to do. You have to have certain requirements, but that's kind of sort of making sure that you're doing things like what Sue was just talking about, doing things proper, doing things legal, making sure you're not speaking out of line, making sure you're not representing things you should not be representing. making sure you understand how to properly draft the letter of intent, make sure you're doing purchase and sales correctly in the states that you're doing them in, because if you're not using the standard form, you're using purchase and sales, those are contracts, they need to be done by attorneys. If you're not an attorney, you have to go get one. And I will say, half my deals are not using the standard forms, they're using attorneys' forms. Like it's just kind of the reality of doing commercial deals. And we work a lot more on letter of intents because they're legal but non-binding documents. And we use a letter of intent that was drafted up by an attorney. So, which these LOIs that you'll see that are available for KW commercial members, same, they were drafted up by attorneys. You can, they note that, you have to be checking within your state if they're following those state, those state guidelines. But yes, there's sample versions of these contracts to kind of get you going. But this is available for those who are members.
So it seems like LoopNet and Crexy have the most content on them. What's another couple of good sites to visit?
Yeah,
for those two?
that's another good question. So those are the two big ones,
Yeah.
and they're the two big ones by a large margin.
Yeah.
So just note that pretty much don't.
Seems to be pretty.
Is by Sell is also owned by CoStar LoopNet. It's the same
Oh.
owner for that. But that's for just selling businesses, same as apartments.com, that's owned by them. Homes.com is owned by them. If you think Zillow is a juggernaut, CoStar is equally kind of controlling the commercial world.
So all that stuff's gonna be on LoopNet if it's
Yeah.
if it's their company.
There is the cheapest alternative that exists. And again, if you were to join the commercial board as like a secondary member, whether it's Maine, New Hampshire, Mass, Vermont, and now Rhode Island, all those states are covered under this program called New England Commercial Property Exchange. It's backed by a program called Moody's. Moody's is like a financial, yeah, they're the people who are like reviewing loans and the financial securities, and that's what their business is. But they are the back end of the NECPE, and that allows you to it's a commercial property exchange, gives you comp data similar to what the MLS would give you, except it's got a lot more lease data and it's all commercial. So you're going to find a lot more data that's valuable to you through a program like that.
Okay.
If you're not willing to, because we're right now $600 a year for that. Crexy is now close to $400 a month, and
Wow.
CoStar is now I think $500 a month per user. So it is a thing to be noting. But if you can also, that's how you get that data. LoopNet is how you market things, and that's a couple $100 per listing per month as well. So.
Thank you.
One thing I've heard in the past is that like in commercial, a lot of times stuff never even makes it to listing sites. It's all about their kind of relationships.
Yeah, I mean, you can do this right now. When you leave here, drive through Portsmouth, and you're going to see probably 4 or 5 signs and windows, rent, and a phone number. That's the landlord. He doesn't have it marketed anywhere online. If you didn't drive by, you would never know. And that's about 60%. 60% of commercial deals never show up online until they've actually transacted. So they've either leased up or sold. So that's one of the things that when people ask, like, can I do residential or commercial at the same time? And I say, yes, you can. You can do it, but it's the equivalent of owning a business that's a barbershop and then owning a business that's a restaurant. There's not a whole lot of overlap. And like you think, oh, it's real estate. Well, just where you find the deals is different. Who you need to be connected to is different. One thing that I do recommend anyone who's even considering this, we have in this room on the 3rd Friday every single month. It is the Seacoast Marketing meeting, which is done by the commercial board. Ross has been there. Pretty much you'll have lenders be there. You'll have engineers be there. You'll have inspectors. You'll have people who do solar. You'll have financial services. Like you'll have a whole lot of different people who show up to those meetings. And those are the connections that you need to know in order to be able to solve a lot of deals and get it to the finish line. Because none of us, I think the best commercial agents know that they just don't know everything, and they want to connect to the right people in a given situation. Because if you don't have a good person who understands soils, if you don't have someone who knows how to do a phase 1 environmental and turn that around quickly, so many of your deals are going to fall apart because you're not going to close on those deals. So having the right connections is extremely valuable. And for those who are part of the board, like that directory is available to you, but anyone's welcome to come to those meetings. You can come a couple times before we ask you to join the board, or if you're an affiliate, to join the affiliate membership. But it's a great group, and this room's full. There's about 40 people in this room every single month, and breakfast is provided there as well. So 8:30 in the morning in this room, third Friday every month. But I will say that the other thing that I look at as the real opportunity that I try to mention every time I speak up here is 1% of real estate agents do commercial deals as like that's their main focus. Like that's where they make 8% of the revenue is doing commercial deals. Thank you. That means there's a lot less, but there's equal volume of commercial deals as there is residential deals that happen on an annual basis. Meaning the unfair share exists more in the commercial world than it does in the residential world. You're competing against a lot of agents. Now, I think we all know that half the agents have their real estate license, but really aren't doing business. It's really the top 20%. But you're still talking about dozens of agents that are in your area that are competing with you. In the commercial world, you have a lot less competition in the number of agents who are doing it. So there's a real opportunity to do that. But it's also not, if you're just doing it for the money, the first steps is to get that experience. Most of those are doing small leasing to kind of get going, which is not extremely lucrative and it's not extremely fun. It's about as much work to do a lease for a 5,000 square foot space as it is to sell a $2 million property. One of those pays a lot better than the other one, but you need to have that experience so that way you can build the reputation, build the trust, because when someone's hiring you as a residential agent, they have to like you. I believe that if they're letting you into their life, they're letting you into their home, if they're going to let you know about what's important to them when they're looking for space, like they have to like you and trust you. On the commercial world, they just have to trust you. They don't really have to like you. They have to know that you're going to do a good job, but you don't have to be best friends. And that's why I do well in this world and not the other world, because I consider myself extremely friendly in the commercial world, but I would be one of the least friendly residential agents out there just because I know people who are doing this at a high level. And they're way more, I'd rather have a drink with most other people in this office before I want to have a drink with any of the other commercial agents, because we're just a little bit cranky and difficult at times. But the same way your attorney, your accountant, you're not hiring or firing because you like them. You're hiring and firing them because they're doing a good job or not doing a good job. And your commercial broker is the exact same way. If you're doing a good job, if they like you, it's a plus. If they don't like you, it's okay as long as you do a good job. I'm not telling you to be a jerk. I'm just saying, I'm just the reality of things.
From an outside of residential, very, I'll say feel good, where commercial very transaction, very, it's you're in the deal, you're out of the deal.
Yeah. Any other remaining questions?
Is that meeting on the hub? Do you know if it shows up on the hub?
I don't know if it shows up on the hub. It shows up on the NHCIBOR calendar for sure. Like right now, the statewide one happened this morning. That one's over at the Verani office in Londonderry, I believe.
So third Friday every month?
Third Friday every month, 8:30 in this room. Someone from our team will always be there. We have no excuse. Our office is right there. So if we can't walk around without to pop our head in. But it's a deal exchange. Like if you have a new listing, you're bringing that up there. If you've got a new deal, it's a really good group. It helps you get connected to the people who are doing this at a high level and know what you should know and what you don't know and who you should be connected with. So.
Would you recommend? Do this on their own, and then to mention a mentor, obviously. Or it would be. Or maybe there's no straight answer.
So the same way I kind of said, yeah, there's no straight answer because it really is depending on what you want to do, who you are, and like I don't try to put a square peg into a round hole. Like if you hate taking orders from somebody, like yeah, a commercial team is going to help streamline the process because you're going to gain experience quicker because they're just getting commercial deals that you can be working on very quickly that help you learn the industry, learn the questions to ask, get connected to the right people, and then start building your book of business. But I would also say it's not for everyone. Like I don't like some people hate taking orders from people. That's why they became an independent contractor and their agent, and they'll come into the office when they want to come in, they'll leave when they want. Like they want that world. Like a team environment is not going to work out for them. But I strongly believe that if you want to streamline, meaning get success quickly, being part of a team is really important. Being part of a group like KW Commercial is extremely important because I have there's over 200 hours worth of material here from people who are at a high level doing this. You know, in order to be one of the division leaders, like you have to do like you have to be like a double capping agent, and they're double capping in their product type. It means they're doing tens of millions of dollars in their product type. They know what's going on. They can tell you who you need to talk to. They can tell you what's going on in the market, and they can tell you how to stop wasting your time on things that are just not going to work out and where you should be spending your time and energy on. Or you can do it yourself, and your real estate license covers you. Like you can literally, if you're just licensed, you can do commercial deals. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. Brokerages have their own rules, but there's no additional license there that's necessary. So it's really how do you work? But having a mentor, you're required to do it for the first year or do the mentorship academy because if you're going to be labeled part of KW Commercial, we have to know you know what you're talking about. You're just not going to put that sticker on, not learn anything, and try and sell yourself as a commercial agent, even though you don't know what you're doing. So, and there, I will say there's a really good. I have a tough time promoting myself. That's why we hired a marketing director to help us do it. Like we're a top 5 team, and all we do is commercial deals. You know, Faulkner Group down in Mass, the top 5 or 10 group, just us commercial deals. Kevin Fletcher up in Portland, he's got a team. They're top 5 team in their market center. Like they're good teams. Do it if you want to do commercial and all the market centers around. And there's huge opportunities that are missing. I don't know if you're licensed in Mass, but Boston's missing a lot. Like Boston has a tremendous opportunity. There's almost no commercial coverage there. So, for anyone who's willing to go down to Boston. Yes.
If you're interested in being an investor / buyer on the commercial side, is it kind of a conflict of interest to also broker in the commercial space?
You just need to do proper disclosure. Like you just need to let people know what you're planning. Like, so I do developments, I do flips, investments, I do those things. We just have to make sure that all parties are aware of what's going on. So the same way, there's nothing that stops you from doing it. There's nothing that stops you from doing investments or doing your own deals. If you're a licensed agent, just make sure that you're following the proper disclosure, making sure people know that you're an agent. And quite frankly, I will say in the commercial world, it is a whole lot easier to tell somebody, hey, this is what I think your property's worth. I'll give you this much money now for your property. My plan is to put this much money into it and then sell it for a profit. And most people are going to be okay with that because it's transactional. Like they understand, like, hey, I don't want to put $200,000 into this property, and I recognize that it could be worth $1 million more if I did that, but I just don't want to do that. So they're okay with you buying it from them and doing that thing and then selling it after the fact, or doing a development project and go, I'm going to buy your land, and in a couple of years' time, hopefully I'll develop it into a apartment thing and then flip it off. And they go, okay, yeah, but I don't want to sit in front of the town for the next year. So I'll sell it to you. So as long as you're disclosing all those things, it is not the hindrance. And I forget, it was someone else, I forget who it is that, but we're the only industry they are allowed to work in and also invest in. Meaning if you do financial services, if you do stock trade, like you can't trade if you're a trade, like you can't invest, you can't commingle. Like they don't let you invest in things that you're like a broker in. But this is one of the industries that you can.
You're actually tax incentivized to do.
Yes. So we get the inside information and we're allowed to invest in that type of product. Not many people get that opportunity. And my background, how I got into this whole thing is I worked for a student housing developer out of school. And he's just one day he showed me his spreadsheet, his development spreadsheet of what he could buy a piece of property for, build it, what he could get for rent from students in the apartments, and how much of a spread he got versus the interest rate versus what his costs were and how much money he was going to make on all those things. And that's when it was like the aha, light flicker to go, this is how people get super rich doing real estate. Like he just showed me the spreadsheet, and it's just a spreadsheet. Like it was an Excel spreadsheet that he had built, and he's got a bunch of tabs, but that's how he does it. And I now have my own spreadsheet that I do the same thing. But I would say the reason you need to join, be part of these groups and join, like again, a New England Commercial Property Exchange, CREXI, CoStar, bad data in, bad data out. If you don't know what construction costs are, you can really get yourself into a bad investment opportunity because you just don't understand, or if you don't understand how to deal with the state wetlands, like you can lose a tremendous amount of money doing developments. But if you know what you're doing and you are able to put good information in, you know what the lease rates are, you know what's timing and what the correct occupancy is for a mixed use property, like you can make a lot of money doing. So, but there's no, even if you join all these things, you're still going to have to make connections with contractors and engineers and soil. Like you're going to need to talk to those people if you're going to want to do conversions. Got to have good contractors who come up, show up on time. Like it's not easy, but the amount of work versus the money you make in investing in commercial real estate is lucrative. And quite frankly, you can invest in commercial real estate and just sell houses because that's what you actually want to do. That's actually the business you want to work in and you're investing in a different type of product category. All right, we're definitely over time. I'm going to stay here a little bit longer, but I will end the Zoom meeting. Thank you for all the people who stuck on and attended. And I have a one-pager flyer. If you are interested in KW Commercial, please grab that. There's a QR code if you wanted to do the application, like all that stuff there and all the resources that are available for KW Commercial. But thank you all for attending, and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.